I grew up with a typical African mom. The mom who would not allow you to embarrass yourself, God forbid embarrass her. The mom who was quick to correct you with a mwiko or a sleeper or the closest thing to her that could inflict some pain in you and teach you a lesson. The fear of the pain that would swiftly follow your misgivings should be enough to teach you that what you did was bad, but not necessarily help you understand why it was bad or how best to avoid your obviously mischievous impulses. With my mom, this type of discipline wasn't just delivered to my sister and I. Any child in the estate who she found misbehaving was given their punishment and told to run to their parents and tell them that she did it. She would always say, "Spare the rod, spoil the child." And for sure, her daughters would not be spoiled. More often than not, the other parents would actually thank her for correcting their children. I learned pretty quickly that keeping quiet, obeying, and saying yes was the easiest way to avoid the pain. Don't listen to this and immediately think that my mother was bad. No, she wasn't. I think it was just the best way she thought she could instill some discipline in us. A lot of our parents and us still think that this is the only way. When I gave birth to my daughter, I wanted to see at what point I'd become that mom. That mom whose well-timed words would send shivers down my daughter's spine, or whose stare would make her stop in her tracks. I wondered when I would yell fast, or when I would raise my hand to teach her a lesson. She's 2 now, and I still haven't reached that point. Don't get me wrong, she has pushed my buttons in more ways than I can count. But right before I turn into that mom that I dread, I take a step back and think a little bit on what else I could do. This isn't something that I'm going through alone. A lot of parents are now wondering if there's another way. Can we really spare the rod and not spoil the child? For a long time after I gave birth to them, our kids look like angels, like they can do nothing wrong. When they start testing our boundaries, we think it's cute. Oh, look, she's trying to climb up that table. Or, oh, wow, did she just say no? What a sassy little girl. Soon enough, it is no longer cute. Our words start falling on deaf ears and you slowly feel the anger building. Then at one point, your baby does something that finally makes you snap. Out of nowhere, you yell at them. You raise your hand to spank them. When did they move from being those little cute angels to manipulative disobediently to humans? How are we meant to respond? How do you make the right choice as a parent? When you start digging into this topic, you'll come across different types of parenting. These types of parenting are separated based on the relationships you want to have with your child and how you interact with them day to day. As you can imagine, discipline is a big part of parenting. So different ways of enforcing it also depend on the parenting style that you choose.
Yeah, so I am Regina Njau. I am a mom to a 3-year-old girl, and I am a wife, and I'm just a stay-at-home mom who is passionate about positive parenting. I think I spend most of my days just researching about childhood development. It's becoming an obsession. First background story: as a firstborn child, I was given the right to punish my siblings. So there's this one time I punished my younger brother, ended up crying. And I knew from there I would never spank my child. So I just started being a positive firstborn child, but I didn't understand what was going on. I was still young. So fast forward to me being a mom. Now my daughter is 2. She has turned 2. The tantrums have started. She's demanding. There's just a lot going on. But then I had started my Instagram page. So I had met Zain of Playroom KE, and they were talking more about Montessori. So I got first curious about Montessori, and Montessori was it's all about respecting your child. So I started Montessori, but it was all about toys. I was not concerned about the disciplining part until one day my daughter yelled at me. So I was telling her to get off the table, and then she yelled back at me. Like the way I always yell back, she was literally She was actually mirroring what I always say. So I was like, oh my god! I remember my sister was there. I was like, wow, amekuwa wewe. And I was like, wow, this needs to change. Because that night I remember I just sat down, I was like, now I feel like I've turned like my mom because my mom yells a lot and now my child is yelling back at me. And I was like, something needs to change. So I started questioning people because I knew about Montessori. So I knew people don't spank their children, but I didn't know how. You know, when you tell people you don't spank your child, they're like, what? Do you want to finish the whole world and all that? So I started asking a lot of moms over on Instagram, like literally DMing them. So, hi, how are you doing? Can I ask you a question? So, do you spank your child? So others would say yes, others would say no. So after I sat down, I was like, so there's some people who have raised their children up to 10 years and they have never spanked them. So it's possible. So I sat down and I was like, I'm not going to spank my child. But guess what? It's not that easy because I was like, you now decided not to spank your child, but do you understand why you don't want to spank your child? So that's when I decided now just to start doing my research. So that's when I came across positive parenting. And I was following back then Big Little Feelings on Instagram. So I really knew about all that, the tantrums and all that. So I was like, let me dive in and try to understand kids and understand why do we spank them and all that. So that's how I got into positive parenting because what I was the way I was punishing my child, it was not working. It was literally backfiring. And she was too, I was like, wow, this is not what I want. So I started researching. I started at around last year, around June, after she turned two, immediately after she turned two, that's when things were just not working. And I never used to feel good about myself because every time I would pop her hand and she would cry so much and then she didn't want to see me. She was like, go away, mom. She wants her dad. I used to feel bad about it and I was like, something needs to change. There's a lot of definition about positive parenting, but I have to clarify that positive parenting and gentle parenting and respectful parenting and conscious parenting, they're one and the same. So we have four parenting styles, according to Dr. Brumude. She came up with the parenting style, and we have permissive, authoritarian, and then we have authoritative, and then we have neglectful. So authoritarian is where we were all raised, like the spanking was allowed, parents were in control. For permissive parenting, where people actually confuse it with positive parenting or gentle parenting, it's where parents give their children power. So you're not really in control of your child. So you let your child just walk all over you. So they're basically pushover parents because they're always afraid to hurt their child's feeling. Well, sometimes most of us are like that, but we are bouncing. It's not like we are permissive parenting all through. And then we have neglectful parenting, which I don't think most of us are neglectful parenting because if you are, I don't think you are supposed to be a parent. But anyway, and then now we have the authoritative parent where positive parenting and gentle parenting fall under.
Let's dig into authoritarian and authoritative parenting a little bit more. Authoritarian parenting tends to follow an older school of thought. It's built upon the foundations of children being seen and not heard and utilizes phrases like, because I said so. This parenting style is characterized by a lack of positive reinforcement and encouragement. A child's inability to listen or behave is quickly followed by severe consequences. In a way, the child was set up for failure, then punished for their lack of success. On the other hand, authoritative parenting does not shy away from high expectations. In fact, setting clear goals is a large part of authoritative parenting. It revolves around the idea of building your child up to help them succeed while maintaining reasonable boundaries. This style of parenting includes sensitivity, positive reinforcement, and transparency. It involves explaining the reasoning behind decisions and rules, and utilizes open communication and encourages discussion. Authoritative parents take time to listen and acknowledge their children. They do not act dismissive or demeaning, even when the child's views or opinions seem unfounded or quote-unquote out of line. It is not a quick fix solution for behavioral issues and requires both patience and time. In both authoritarian and authoritative parenting, it is the parents who should be setting limits and enforcing rules. The difference lies in how this is accomplished. Based on the description, I grew up in a largely authoritarian home. I remember the many rules and the tough consequences that followed for breaking them. I remember not being sure if I met all my parents' expectations, so I always had to push a little harder. I simply just had to be the best daughter, best student, best child. Otherwise, I'll just embarrass everyone, not just me. Let me reiterate this. I grew up in a loving home. I was cared for, I was educated, and I was respected. Others definitely had it tougher. Either way, I knew that it wasn't perfect and I need to do something very different for my own home. Many studies support authoritative parenting as the more effective parenting style. Children raised under an authoritarian thumb are more likely to have mental health issues and poor peer relations. One thing that I think we need to do is understand the difference between discipline and punishment. Many times we use them interchangeably, but they aren't. Understanding the difference between discipline and punishment is a fundamental part of positive parenting.
The thing is that punishment and discipline, they're not one and the same. So punishment is actually making your child pay for what they have done, literally inflicting pain, hoping they will learn a lesson. But the discipline is actually it comes from a Latin word which means to teach and to guide, and it's literally your child being your disciple. So you're teaching and guiding them. It's just understanding your child has been in the world for 2 years, so they do not understand how this world works. They do not understand we have boundaries. They do not understand the emotion. They just want to understand the world. So, yeah, that's what discipline is. So, you're trying to understand why your child is doing what she's doing. What can you do to teach them? So, it's not about consequences, really, because I've seen also people actually thinking that positive parenting also is also about consequences, but it's not so much about consequences. Sometimes there's natural consequences. So if Araya doesn't want to wear her sweater, if she goes outside, she's going to feel cold. That's a natural consequence, right? Yeah, but it's not so much about consequence. You want that behavior, yes, to stop, but are you going to equip them with a skill that they're going to use for the rest of their life? So it's just understanding, why is my child doing that? Why is she reacting that way? Why is she acting that way? And then how can I best teach her so that she doesn't repeat this the next time, right? So if your child is angry at you and they're hitting and screaming, so you understand why she's doing that. Maybe you said no to a toy. So how can I teach her not to hit next time and actually equip her with something she can use next time instead of hitting or biting someone? So they're not one and the same thing, and people actually confuse that, but they are two different things. So punishment is spanking, pinching, all that. And actually, people always say, like my mom, I told her I don't spank my child, and she's like, no, mtoto lazima achunwe. And I'm like, no, not really. Actually, it's all about the brain. The part, the amygdala, that help us detect pain. It grows faster than any other part of the brain. So it's actually active even in newborns. So what happens is that children, they do not know the difference between a sleepers, being bitten by a sleepers, or being pinched. To them, that's pain. And for the amygdala, actually, Daniel Siegel, I think that's how the name is pronounced. Actually, compares it to a fire detector. He always says that, the way you're in the kitchen and you're cooking pancake and then it burns, the fire detector it's gonna beep. And then if your house is on fire, it's gonna do the same. So it doesn't matter it's a big fire or a small fire. It's the same as the amygdala. So if you keep on pinching your child, the amygdala detects that as threat, right? And it's painful. So they're going to try to do so much to avoid that. So that's why you see people saying spanking with your child or pinching them and all that. They're all punishment, or rather, that people call it abuse. Yeah, it's all because about the brain. Your brain detects that. Sometimes it's passed all over your body, and that's how people get anxiety.
I'd like us to take a step back and understand exactly when our kids start pushing our buttons. What happens in the child's brain when they move from being babies to toddlers? These feisty little humans that can make or break your days single-handedly.
So, immediately a child starts walking, they kind of start realizing, I'm my own person, right? Because I can move from point A to B without mom. So they can go to the kitchen, they can go outside the gate, they can do a lot. So we are restricting them if they want to explore their autonomy, and that is part of developmental appropriate behavior. So they want to explore it. The thing is, they do have emotions just like the infant. Is just that as they grow, also their brain grows. Psychology, they say that at birth, a child is born with the 100 million billion neurons. So what changes is that the more connection you build with your newborn as they turn into a toddler, is that the neurons in their brain, they start connecting and they become information. They know, like, if I cry, mom will come to me. If I do this, this is how I get mommy's attention, or this is how I get daddy's attention. So that's what happens. So the neurons, they start making connection, and then the connection becomes information. So with toddler stage, it's actually literally just like they have emotions, but not intense like newborns. The thing is that their emotions, they get frustrated easily because they want something, they want to communicate something. They know that I am different from mom and dad. I want this thing, but I don't have the word. So the thing is that the emotion starts and they don't have words to express, and then we misunderstand them. So sometimes they cry and then you don't understand why they're crying. So maybe you shut them down. So it gets so frustrating for them. And that's why sometimes it's so frustrating also for them, because they want to say something, but they don't have the words to communicate. So the way they communicate is through the tantrums. And then if we don't understand their tantrums, now they cry more until maybe we understand what they're trying to say. So it's just about the brain. So their brain is developing. Though the part of the brain that helps with emotion regulation, it starts developing at around 4 and continues up to 25. It's called the prefrontal cortex. So for 2 years and 3 years, they're not yet there, and it's so frustrating for them. They want to be independent. They want us to understand them. Sometimes we have these boundaries for them, and they're like, "Why don't you just let me do this?" And it's so frustrating for them. Yeah, but with time, as their brain matures, they also stop some certain behavior. Now you can communicate effectively with them.
So that's the trigger. The world is so new and full of possibilities. All of a sudden, they can move, they can communicate, or are trying to. They can explore their world. Boundaries are not a thing just yet. Impulse control is largely non existent. We think they're all grown up, but in reality, they're just getting started. I can vividly remember the first time my daughter threw a tantrum, like a major meltdown. We were at a mall, Junction Mall to be specific, and I think I was either yes, it was her stroller. So she had just gotten to that point in time where she doesn't want to be on a stroller anymore and wanted to push it. We were in a bit of a rush trying to get from one side of the mall to the other. So I decided to make the choice of helping her push the cart, her stroller. So it was all going well until she started to try and reverse the stroller, like pull it back towards her direction. But I didn't catch that, so I kept pushing it forward. And then she looked up and realized that she wasn't the only one pushing this stroller. What followed was a huge meltdown. She broke down, she cried, she fell on the ground and started rolling. And this was like in the middle of the mall, literally just outside Subway. And I immediately felt embarrassed. I immediately felt judged by everyone around me, because I used to judge people like that. Like, I would see kids throw tantrums and be like, maybe the parents didn't do this and this and this. And here I was with my child right on the floor, and I have no idea what to do. So the only thing that we could think of doing was kind of just lift her, because unfortunately we can do that, and move her to somewhere a little bit more silent. That was the elevator, and try and figure out what to do. That was one time that I felt like I failed as a mom, in that I felt embarrassed by my child and I didn't know what to do to actually help her. So since then, I've become a little bit curious about tantrums. It is these tantrums that brand our kids as terrible twos or teenagers and so forth. I think bad behavior is one thing, but bad behavior followed by a tantrum when trying to correct it, or a tantrum that's seemingly out of nowhere, or one that comes out from miscommunication like what I had, is what pushes most parents to think about disciplining kids to regulate that behavior or completely eliminate it. So what are these tantrums and why do they happen?
Here's the thing I always say, tantrum. I think like every human being throws a tantrum because I also throw a tantrum at my husband. It's just that my brain is developed. I can actually handle all this emotion. But tantrums are not misbehavior. Parents need to understand that they are not misbehavior. They are communication. They are, Mom, I cannot handle this. Mom, I really needed that chocolate. They are just trying to communicate with us. They're trying to say, you know what, you've told me no. This is so overwhelming. I did not expect you to say no. So just help me. So yeah, one thing I feel like parents always think is that tantrums are misbehavior, but they're not misbehavior because, 2 year, 3 year olds, as I said, the prefrontal cortex it starts developing at 4 and continues up to 25. So even a 7 year old can still have a tantrum, a big meltdown, and you're like, I thought you're old. No, no, no. It's all about understanding your child's brain development. So what happens is that the prefrontal cortex we have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. So when your child is having a tantrum, it always involves the right hemisphere. Yeah, it's the right hemisphere. So that's where emotions and intuitive thinking, it's all. So what happens is that that's the only part, that's the side of the brain that is functioning. So the logical thinking is kind of off. So when your child is literally crying, so the emotional brain has taken over the whole brain. It's a haste. So your child cannot think straight. If you try to try to explain things to them, they are not listening to you. So that's why you always encourage, get down to their level, make sure they are calm before you actually correct a misbehavior or before you actually explain things to them or try to reason with them. Because once your child is crying, that means the emotional part of the brain has taken over. So what they need is co-regulation, and co-regulation happens, and that's how self-regulation happens. And then your child gets to know much about emotion regulation. So you cannot actually teach your child anything when they're having a tantrum. So co-regulation happens when a safe a safe person, but in this case, it's a safe adult. You just come and help your child. It's actually literally hugging a child, validating your child's feeling. That's what co-regulation is. It happens when you are a safe adult who's trying to understand your child's emotion, just assuring them that they are safe and you love them and you're there for them no matter what. So once you hug them or try to validate their feelings, they calm down and then now they can regulate their emotion. But co-regulation, the hugging part, the mom, I understand you. I understand this is hard for you. You cannot expect your child to self-regulate if you're not co-regulating with them. The end goal of tantrum, of course, is to make your child stop crying, but also is to equip a skill known as self-regulation. You want them when they're angry, they won't bang a door. You want them when they're angry, they won't say bad words or maybe hurt a friend. That's what. And what happens is also just because of the brain. They cannot do all this because their brain is still under construction. So things like impulse control, because when your child is mad at you, or maybe you've told them no, they're having a tantrum, they'll hit, bite, or scream at you. They don't want to do that. It's just that they don't have impulse control. Like literally, they know I'm not supposed to do this, but because they don't have impulse control, they end up doing it. It's not because they want to hurt you. It's just that their impulse control is not there, and it starts at around 4, 5. Actually, a 7 year old cannot even control 80% of their impulse. And your child is not trying to manipulate you with tantrum. It's actually just communication. So they cannot manipulate us. They don't want to hurt us. Actually, children see us as God and they don't want to lose our love. Yeah, they really want to do the best. It's just that their brain doesn't allow them to do that.
Tantrums can be hard to deal with, especially when they catch you off guard. I dread the ones my daughter throws because I begin doubting my parenting skills. One thing that I had always seen is that the best thing you can do for your child is show them that you're present and that they are safe. I know if I try this with my own daughter, her tantrums just get worse. She isn't into physical touch, much like me, so I wondered if there's anything else I could do to help her calm down.
So sometimes, yeah, we have so many children who don't want to be touched. Sometimes my toddler, Araya does that. She doesn't want to be touched, but they want is that don't leave them. Sometimes they will actually tell you, go away. Please don't go away. Just tell them, I understand you're angry, but I'm here if you need me. Just move some few meters away. And actually, the redirection part works when sometimes when you catch a tantrum, you can easily redirect a child. But after when your child is in the middle of a tantrum, redirection cannot really work. Sometimes it can backfire on you. Yeah. So as I said, in the middle of the tantrum, just validate their feelings, and it actually validating a child feelings is not encouraging bad behavior, because I've seen so many people saying that. Validating, I can validate you, but that doesn't mean that I agree with whatever you've done or whatever is going on, right? So what I'm trying to say is that I understand you understand how this can be so hard for you, but that doesn't mean that I agree why you've hit your friend or all that. So validate your child's feeling. So if your child doesn't like to be hugged, it's okay. Just tell them, I'm here if you need me. Just don't go away. Please don't usende kosha vyombo. Don't don't leave your child crying and then you go do something else.
She's talked about the things that we should do during tantrums. What are the absolute no-nos?
I think one big no-no is punishing them. If you spank your child during a tantrum or send them to timeout, or actually even ignoring them, those are the worst thing you can do during a tantrum. Because remember, I've said tantrum is not misbehavior. It's just a way your child knows how to communicate to you. So this is overwhelming for me. I need this. It's just a communication. So if you do that, and then another things we have to understand is that they don't understand. Children are not aware of the emotions. They are not born knowing I'm sad, I'm angry, and when I'm angry, I need to do this and this. They do not understand. We are the one who teach them. So if you have an emotion chat, just teach them, or you have books, read those books to them. But they are not. They know emotions comes before, as I said before, they have words to talk about the emotion. So don't do that because they are not able to do that. Their brain is not able to regulate themselves. They're not doing that intentionally. So if you punish them or send them to timeout, trust you me, I don't think a child goes to timeout and try to actually analyze what they've done wrong and what they're going to do right next time. No, you'll either find them laughing or maybe singing or maybe doing something. They hardly think of what they have done. So and also it also teaches them that emotion is not okay. I love what Zain of Playroom K always says. She's like, tears are not, they're not a volcano. It's not fire. It's not going to burn anyone. It's not hurting anyone. So yeah, don't punish, don't ignore, and don't send them to timeout. They need us to co-regulate, and with co-regulation, they get to learn about self-regulation. And with that, we are raising children who are going to be adults who are aware and are attuned with their emotions.
Let's take a break. And when we come back, I ask Reggie how she would handle certain situations that we are familiar with, but with a positive parenting lens. See you then. Season 2 of Mama Tales is officially coming to an end soon, but don't you worry, Season 3 will be right around the corner. If you're listening to this and you've always wanted to be on the podcast, this is your sign. Want to share your story on the podcast? It's as simple as just letting me know. You can send me an email at mamatillspod@gmail.com or shoot me a DM on Instagram at mamatillspodcast. Let's empower each other, let's be vulnerable, and let's celebrate this amazing journey that we are on. Alright, back to the episode. During our conversation, I posed different situations to Reggie to see how she would handle them as a positive parent. Let's say your child is hitting and biting you or their friend or sibling. This is typical toddler behavior when they get frustrated or mad. How should you handle this?
So children need rules, they need boundaries, and they need us to be consistent and firm. Don't show your child that you're scared to give them that firm boundary. So when your child is hitting you, which is normal, so sometimes they're hitting because you've told them no, or maybe they just frustrated, or maybe I don't know. There's always a reason behind the hitting and the biting. So what I always say is, I always tell my child, I won't let you. I always try to use the word I won't, because it has more command behind it. So I won't let you hit mommy. And then make sure you're firm. Don't try to laugh with them, because you really need to show them that you're really serious. Because I see some people social media, they're like literally laughing. Look, they are hitting me. No, 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 don't do that. I won't let you hit me. Sometimes they'll repeat hitting you. And maybe if you're holding your child and they're hitting you, tell them, I won't let you hit me. And if you hit me, I'll put you down. If they proceed hitting you, put them down and let them know, I do not feel safe carrying you, so I'm just going to help you when you're down here. So just make sure you're firm and just let them know that you're not trying to ignore them or anything. So I won't let you hit me. I need to keep myself safe. So let's just sit here. Just make sure you are maintaining a distance. Even if it's a sibling, just do the same. So for you, maybe your firstborn is hitting your secondborn. I won't let you hit your brother. If you continue to do that, I'll have to move your brother. And also try to teach them about gentle hands. So just remind them just to use gentle hands, because sometimes they're just rough. They just don't want to hurt you. It's just that they're just rough. They love rough play. So just remind them gentle hands. And also notice that you have to repeat yourself over and over again. But very soon they will learn. Literally, you'll be shocked. You'll go somewhere at a function and your child will be the one teaching others about gentle hands, please. Yes, so teach them about gentle hands. Don't take the behavior personally. There's no child who wants to hurt their parents or want to hurt their siblings. Just that maybe they're frustrated about something, they're trying to communicate something. So just don't take it personally, but set a boundary. You're not okay in the behavior. So I won't let you bite me. I won't let you hit me. They will cry. Literally, when you put them down, they will cry, but just let them know I'm trying to keep myself safe. No, and then with time they'll also learn about all that, and they'll learn about how to, if maybe they are frustrated about something, maybe you told them no, you're not going to buy them a toy, and they end up hitting you, and then you put them down. Just make sure you validate their feelings. I understand you really want that toy. It's okay to get angry, but it's not okay to hurt me. It's not okay to hurt your brother or to hurt your friend. Just okay the feelings, but not the behavior. Just boundary. And boundaries are different from rules. Parents need to understand that, because when you say no hitting, that's a rule. Your child has the right to say, to follow that rule or not. And then it's something you're not control of as a parent, because it's a rule. But when it comes to boundary, you literally have control over that boundary. So I won't let you hit me. If you hit me, I will have to separate myself from you.
Now imagine your child is thinking or are already running across the road or climbing up a very high wall. How should you respond to this?
So when it comes to dangerous stuff like crossing the road, there literally you have to take action. So stand up, just stand up, remove them from that situation, run, just run to them if they want to cross the road. When your child is in a dangerous situation, do whatever you have to do. Well, maybe don't spank them, but you can yell. The thing is, when you don't yell so much, what happens when you yell? You actually activate the flight, fight, or freeze mode on your child's brain. But when you don't yell so much, once you yell when your child is trying to cross the road, they're actually going to pay attention. But if yelling is a thing, you're going to yell, maybe then they're in a dangerous situation, they'll be like, oh, it's just mom, she's so used to yell and all that. So just try to yell less. But if your child is in a dangerous situation, do whatever you have to do. Run, stand up, stop whatever you're doing, just remove them from a dangerous situation, because they are curious. They are little scientists. They'll want to know how the oven works. They will want to know how the machine works. You'll find them inside the washing machine, because they're like, if a cloth spins, so that means I can also spin. They just try to hack in their brain and just understand what they're trying to do. But just do whatever you have to do to remove them from a dangerous situation. Don't try to be. Sometimes maybe you'll tell them, I won't let you do that, and then maybe they're not listening. Don't repeat yourself. Just stand up and remove them from that situation, and then just make sure you go down on their level and try to explain things to them. That is dangerous, but just know they'll also try to repeat, because they don't have impulse control. They're not, that they're not listening. Plus, they also have this question. I feel like for kids, it's like, what's the fuss about? Why does mom always complain about the socket? And they always see her using the socket to charge her phone. Yeah, so they just keep on going back. But with time, as you continue being firm and consistent, try to create safety in your home. So gates, make sure things are up on the shelf and all that. Just if you're going outside, make sure you're holding your child's hands, because with no impulse, they just see something and just run. They do not think that there's cars and bikes and all that. So just try to create a safety as a place for your child. Things like getting in the car seat, that's not negotiable. Just get inside the car seat. They will cry. You validate the feelings, but they just have to do that. The thing is, as parents, we can actually encourage a behavior through a reaction, a negative or a positive behavior. So if your child does something, there's Araya has this behavior. I think she picked from a friend. So she tries to mock you. And I remember she was doing that back in April. So she will do something and then she'll be like remove her tongue and all that. And I remember I was like, I read somewhere, don't give that, don't pay attention to that. Well, you have to weigh as a parent. So this is where it gets tricky. So just know that you can give a behavior attention and then it gets worse because your child is like, wow, now I've known how to get mommy's attention. So next time, if they want your attention, they're going to do that or they're going to say that bad word. So you can actually respond to a bad behavior, but detach your emotion from it. Like you maybe say your child has picked up a bad word. If you attach your emotion to that behavior, it's going to get worse because the next time they want your attention, they're going to do that. So try to say, I've noticed you picked a bad word, but that's a bad word. I won't let you use it, right? If it's a bad maybe that one of the bouncing and all that, try not to make it a fun thing because now they know. So sometimes what I do, depending on the situation, it all depends on the context. So sometimes, for like Araya, they're mocking, and I used to give it attention because I knew she picked up somewhere. So I used to ignore it. So sometimes I'll tell her, please wear your dress. She'll be like, "Ugh." And I'm like, I'm not going to pay attention to this. I'll I'll just do the agenda, wear your dress, go take breakfast, let's go, whatever do you are doing. And actually, it fed away. So, what I always try to do is actually understand where she picked that from. Sometimes it's from a friend we will never see ever again. So, I just ignore it. If it's a bad word, sometimes things like bad word, we really have to actually tell them to stop because they can actually say it to somebody and somebody will not take it well. But don't be emotional about it. Don't start, where did you get that from? That's not allowed in this house. Don't do that. Just be firm and consistent. Just detach your emotion from it. And I know sometimes it can be so triggering. There's I saw on Twitter somebody saying that their toddler came to them and called them a bitch. Yeah, so the first step is, where did she learn this word? And then before you actually discipline that, just understand that your child that doesn't, I don't think a 2 year old understands the meaning of that. So don't take it personally. Also ask yourself, where did she learn that, and then make sure she knows that that's a bad word and she's not allowed to use it in the house. Obviously, children, they're going to do it again, but just recreate the same response you had last time, and with that, with more repetition, they'll stop doing it. So what you do is just be firm, tell her, I won't let you do this, and then the more they see that you're serious, they stop doing it. But actually, our reaction is the one that makes things worse. Yes, so if you react to something, it's registered in their brain. I'm like, next time when mommy's breastfeeding my baby brother and she's not paying attention, I'm going to do that.
As with everything under the sun, positive parenting comes under criticism from a lot of people. I asked Reggie about that, and this is what she had to say.
One con I think about positive parenting is that people think it's permissive parenting. So really, what happens is, if you do it wrongly, if you don't understand positive parenting, you may end up being a permissive parent, thinking you're being a positive parent. So I've seen people on social media, maybe the child is hitting them and they're like, no, I won't let you hit me. No, that is permissive. For me, I'm like, I won't let you hit me. If you keep on hitting me, you have that firm, authoritative voice. Yes. But that's one con. If you do not understand what it is, you'll actually end up being a permissive parent and having a child who is walking all over you. So yeah, that's one con. Another con about positive parenting is that it's hard. Where it is hard. The first few weeks you'll feel like giving up, but please don't. If you're trying to be a positive parent, please don't give up. It is hard because it is not how we were raised. It's gonna be painful. It's gonna be lonely sometimes, because you're also healing. You're also healing your inner child, right? Like there was a time I was coloring with Araya, and I asked my sister, "Why am I excited about this?" It's like I didn't go through this stage, and I was like, "Huh." She was like, oh, kumbuki tuko tunachapa mikono tunaambiwa kala katikati, like just color in between the lines. And I'm like, you we used to be spanked for that. I'm like, ha. So that's why I don't even remember that part, because it was painful. So I'm like, just know it's hard. It's going to bring up some memories. And also something about positive parenting, you have to be honest with yourself. Like literally be honest. Drop all the ego. You're not a bad person. So if you yell with your child, reflect, because once you don't reflect, it's gonna come back. So if you don't understand why you spanked your child, if you don't understand why you yelled at your child, if you don't reflect on that, it's just going to keep on coming back, coming back. But with positive parenting, it becomes easier if you work on your inner child, if you work on yourself. So if you understand today I yelled because I did not sleep well, guess what? You'll tell yourself you need an extra hour so that you do not yell at your child. You make sure maybe next time you ask for help if you feel like you're being overwhelmed. If maybe you have childhood trauma, you'll understand. So you're like, I always say we did not turn out fine. So some of us are going through depression, anxiety, people pleasing, and all that. So for me, it's something like anxiety, people pleasing, codependency. I need to write a book about codependency. Where your husband uh, is just doing their work, and then you think they are mad at you, and you're like, what have I done? Have I done something? Hey, that thing is bad. And I don't want to imagine my child going through that. So it's just actually being honest with yourself, and you're like, you know what? I am a good person, but I have trauma. And that doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're this horrible person. You just heal from that codependency, pleasing, anxiety. If possible, find therapy. Yeah, just work on yourself. So that's one can I think about positive parenting. The pros are a lot. Yeah, the pros are like maybe try not to raise children who don't have trauma, but sometimes maybe you'll mess up and maybe your child will have a trauma, because sometimes their brain registers something and then it becomes just a memory, a painful one. But the thing is that sometimes you're not able to avoid trauma, I guess, as parents. But you're going to raise children who are aware of their emotions. They're able to communicate their feelings. You're raising children who are able to respect others. They are able to help. They are going to be good siblings, good spouses, good partners. They're going to be children who actually understand people's emotion. They're not the people to invalidate people and all that. You're actually literally raising human beings the society needs, because I feel like we need a change. But the pros are a lot. There's a lot because you're helping your child grow. You're not rushing. You're not shaming them. They will have good self-esteem because you're not shaming them about their bodies, about their behavior and all that. So it's a good parenting style. Actually, research shows it's an effective parenting style. It's just that it's hard and people think it's permissive parenting. And because we were raised in a society where people feel like we need to hurt children for them to learn. So unlearning that, it's hard. And I feel like it's the same as women rights, right? It's gonna take time. As women we are not there yet, but we're headed there. There was a time women were being beaten and all that. Now we have domestic violence rights and all that. So yeah, we will get there. We will get there.
So, with all this information that we have, how does one even start being a positive parent? Is it too late?
The thing is, when you want to stop spanking your child, I just number one understand that you're gonna get a lot of hate for it, sometimes from your family. And I'm saying hate because people are going to say so much. Because I know somebody told me that I'm raising a child who's going to burn a school in the future. Yes, people don't understand. So number one, I feel like people need to be warned about it. You need to be firm. If you have decided this is the way I want to parent my child, just just know it's not going to be easy, because for Africans, they always say it's an European way of raising your children, but actually no, because when you sit down and try to understand how our ancestors used to punish their children, I don't think I've ever heard about that. I actually feel like when you were colonized is when you were taught about hurting people, inflicting pain. right? I am committed to believe that as Black people, we were gentle. We do not punish our kids with sijui nyahunyo and all that stuff. It's anyway. Just know you're going to get a lot of hate if you tell people you're not spanking your child. To just know it's not about perfection. I have to insist on that. Please give yourself grace. I know you want the best for your child and for you, but just know you're not going to be perfect because it's not easy unless you are raised in a positive home. It is not easy for you. For me, yelling is actually so hard. I've literally worked so hard to actually yell less. So being calm is not part of me, but being calm is part of my husband because the mom was calm. The way they were disciplined was so calm. Like it was so calm. So it's part of him is always so calm, but I am not. Just know it's not going to be easy because you cannot give something that you are not given. So you are learning as your child learns. So give yourself grace. You're gonna make mistake. Your child is gonna make mistakes. So just when you make mistake, just make sure you apologize. And also, I need to add: don't apologize with gifts. No, no, don't apologize with gift. I was in TikTok and somebody said with gift is that's why we have people who are being abused by their partners, and then they are being given cars, and then they forgive them, right? Yeah, yeah. Just don't apologize with gift. Just let your child know if you hurt your child. Maybe if you grab them, just let them know. I'm sorry, that was not how I want to treat you. I held your hands and now you're hurting. I don't want to hurt you. Just show your child how to apologize. Yeah, because they're learning from us. Positive parenting starts with you being gentle with yourself, and then you're going to be gentle with your child. So if you make a mistake and you're too hard on yourself, trust me, you're not going to be. So let's say right now you yell at your child, right? And then you're like, I'm a bad mom, and you're putting yourself down. And then your child does something. You're not able to give them the grace because you're also not giving yourself that grace. So yeah, mistakes are going to happen. You don't have to be perfect. Another one is you need to work on yourself. You need to reparent yourself because but not everything is trauma response. Sometimes you're reacting to your child because you have unmet needs, but sometimes it's trauma response. And trust trauma shows up as a reaction, not memory. It's not memory. You're not going to see that your mom used to do this to you. No, you're going to react. And then you sit down and ask yourself, why did I react that way? And sometimes the reaction is just too melodramatic. You actually even scare yourself. You're like, wow, why did I yell that much? Yeah. So just reparent yourself. Number one, about reparenting yourself, please understand your parents did the best they can. It's not the same for everyone. There's some parents who didn't do the best they can according when you hear people's story, but according your story, your childhood. So just understand that. Maybe try to forgive your parents. Sometimes it's not easy. Another thing about reparenting yourself is just know it takes time because you're breaking a cycle. It takes time. Sometimes it's lonely. You're setting a boundary. Sometimes you'll fall out with your mom because or your dad because you're not spanking your child. Because I know there are parents who make it a big deal, right? They make it a big deal. They're like, don't ever bring the child. Actually, I saw a story there on TikTok when somebody said, I don't spank my child, and my mom told me not to go to her house with my child because they misbehave and I'm not teaching them discipline and all that. But just know it's not easy. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes you'll be gentle with your child and then you'll remember your mother was not gentle with you. And then you're gonna cry. You're gonna cry and try to understand why. So you'll try to ask yourself, but I was able to handle this in a gentle way. Why didn't she not do this? just just go through those emotions. Don't suppress them. That's how you're healing. Just cry. Because I went through that yesterday because my mom used to actually spank me because of my hair. I didn't like doing my hair. So she really used to spank me because I was those child where you went to the salon in the middle of being plaited, you wake up and leave. You're like, I'm not doing this anymore. I am going. So yesterday I took a ride to the salon for the first time. She cried. She doesn't like being washed, but she really her hair needed wash. It's been 3 years, a good wash. Anyway, she cried and cried, and I was there just singing for her to her and telling her, I love you, you're safe, just I did not spank her, I did not yell, I just made sure I am a safe adult. And I was like, why did I not go through that? And I cried. I made sure I cried, and then next time another memory is going to come and we're just going to deal with it. So parenting is a gift, and it's a gift for you to reparent yourself. And that's how you're going to break the cycle and parent your child differently. It's by questioning. When you question, you're going to find some things your parents did were actually good and you can implement them in your home, and others you're going to actually understand they're toxic and you need to heal and you need to stop. So you can read so many books, you can attend all this webinar and all that and listen to a lot of TikTok videos and Instagram, but reparent yourself. Also know you're the one who knows your child. So the books and the TikTok and the Instagram, they help you understand your child, maybe the brain, how the brain works, but just know you're the one who knows your child, because one thing will work for your child, but it won't work for me. Maybe they're the same age, but it won't work. Also understand your child's temperament, because maybe for you, you have two children. Maybe one child is sensitive, the other one is a spirited child, a strong-willed child. So whatever is working for that sensitive child is not going to work for a strong-willed child. Because strong-willed child, you'll tell them like, it's time to stop the switch off the TV. They'll be like, no, I'm not doing that. Or you tell them, I understand you're mad because I switch off the TV, and maybe they'll tell you something like, yes, mom, so switch it back on. Just understand your child. Just know your child, because that's the best gift as a parent you have. So learn about childhood development, heal, also just know you are the one who knows your child best, and just give yourself grace.
One thing that I've learned in my motherhood journey is that parenting is hard and is not for the faint of heart. Most days we're barely surviving. How you choose to parent your child is a deeply personal thing because they are your child. I just wanted to put this out there to get you thinking and to keep you curious. My biggest takeaway from this episode and conversation with Reggie is that there are always an one to look at or solve a problem. We always want to do better for our kiddos, so it might be worth the thought to see if positive parenting is for you or not. I wasn't able to capture everything that we talked about in this one episode, so I'll be releasing the full version of our conversation a little bit later, either as audio or as video on our YouTube channel. Be sure to be on the lookout for that. It features more insights on the behavioral characteristics of our young kids and how to respond to more scenarios that we find ourselves in using a positive parenting lens. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.